The best part of running your own business is that it is you and you alone that gets to decide what is or isn't working for your business, and then change it as you see fit. So if you start out using a mileage-based system and find out that you'd rather be using a time-based system or flat rates, switch it up. Now keep in mind the quotes that you've sent out should have an expiration date, and brides that are under contract already have their rates locked in. Anybody who has a contract signed or who has a quote and you turn around and you change it, they are locked in at that if they have a contract, and they're temporarily locked in until their quote expires. But everybody else inquiring after you make a change, whether you've announced it online, whether you put it on your website, whatever, none of that really matters. When you make a change in your business, everybody who inquires moving forward should be getting those rates. So if it's a Monday and you send out a bunch of quotes, and on Tuesday you up your travel fees because you've been listening to this podcast on Monday afternoon and you're like, oh, maybe I should do that. Tuesday morning, you want to make that change and implement it, and a bride inquires on Tuesday afternoon, guess what? She's going to get that new rate. You do not have to wait until the first of the year or some magic date in the future that all of these things go into effect. If you've made that change in your business, now this goes with whatever policy you have, not just with your travel rates or rates in general. If you've made that change in your business, from the second that you made that change, everything after now follows that policy, okay? Anybody who has not signed a contract and agreed to rates and policies and all of those kinds of things is subject to going forward with these new rates in mind. Now, this is going to be specifically for travel within your local area. I have a whole separate blog article and set of information when you're talking about destination weddings. So if you are traveling more than 2 hours or so, now it's going to change for everybody. Some people it's 90 minutes. Some people a destination for them will be more than 3 hours. So for you, if it's traveling more than however much that threshold is, then that's going to be more on the destination side of things. So I will put a link to those kind of resources in the description for this video or this podcast episode that you're listening to, and you can go find out more about that. I'm talking about like the day-to-day travel rates, driving to and from the wedding, and you don't have to stay overnight anywhere. Okay, so there's 3 different methods that I kind of have things broken down into. There's going to be mileage based, there's going to be time based, and then there's going to be a flat rate. So you can set your base off of mileage. So the distance between her location and where you live. You can set it based off of time. So a set rate per hour that it takes you to get to her location from yours. Or you can simply set a flat fee per area, and you can block this out however makes the most sense for you. As an example, I live in Northern Virginia. Driving into DC, depending on the day of the week and what time it is and whether or not there's a protest or a parade or a marathon being run there, it can take me anywhere from 35 minutes to 2 hours to get into certain parts of DC. I'm not a time traveler. I can't go back in time and be like, oh, that actually took me 2 hours. I should have set my rate for that instead. I can't tell the future and know in advance, oh, well, this is what's going to be happening on that day and it's going to only take me 30 minutes or whatever. I never know what it's going to be like. So I used to start out with mileage based. It was, 30 miles into DC. And so it would be based on my mileage rate. And then I realized some days it does take me 2 hours to get to my location. Or even if I got there really early in the morning on the way home, now everybody is in DC on a Saturday. Now it's going to take me those 2 hours to get back home. It was always so in flux that I thought, okay, well, a flat mileage rate will be good. But then I thought about, well, now I'm spending all of this time in the car and dealing with all of this traffic and all of these navigational challenges and stuff like that, I don't feel compensated fairly any longer for that based on the mileage. Driving 30 miles in the different direction out towards West Virginia, or driving down, southwest or southeast or just straight south in Virginia. 30 miles in any other direction can be a completely different thing, and it could only take me 35, 40 minutes. So I decided that moving forward, anything in DC itself was going to be a flat rate. And that covered the variability of what going into the city looked like for me. Some days I was going to be lucky and it wasn't going to be as big of a hassle. Some days it was going to be a big hassle and a big pain in the ass. But either way, I thought about it and I thought, even on my worst days, what feels like a fair compensation for my time that also covers how much it's going to cost for me for gas, the wear and tear, the mileage that I've put onto my vehicle, all of those kinds of things. What feels fair to me? And I set that as my rate. So anything inside of DC, rather than making it complicated and people having to figure out, well, how far away is her studio from my address, or how long does that take? I made it easy. It's one flat rate. So anybody inquiring for me for DC, they know exactly what their travel fee is going to be. Anybody who I'm not traveling into the city and it's pretty standard travel, they get the mileage-based rate. So you can do a combination too. So you don't have to just be like, well, everybody is mileage, everybody is based on time, or everybody is flat rates. You can say this particular area, because it's more tricky, is just going to be a flat rate to make my life and everybody else's life easier. There we go. If you are somebody who is traveling to and from a city, this is the way that I think makes the most sense. It just makes it so much easier for you and for your clients. But you might want to say anything up to the city limits or within the city limits, whatever. So if you're going to do like a flat rate, however it makes the most sense to you, what is that area? Is it a specific mileage? Is it a specific zip code? Et cetera, et cetera. If you're inside of DC, it could be, anywhere along the blue line or the orange line or whatever. You can decide how you're going to break up these different areas to charge those rates and whatever makes sense for you. So you can see how asking people, well, how do you do it? Doesn't really matter, because you don't live where they live, and how you travel to and from your clients is going to be different. So you need to make these processes and set these rates based on what makes the most sense for you, and to you also what feels fair to you. Me, personally, I don't mind driving. I love driving. I pop on a podcast like what I'm, hoping you're listening to, maybe on a wedding morning to or from somewhere. And I like to learn something while I'm driving. I find it's a really great opportunity for me to kind of zone out and listen and feed my brain at that time. Some people are like, no, I just want to turn on music and I want to zone out. Or some people are like, I just need silence. I've definitely had those weddings where I've gotten in the car afterwards and I'm like, silence. I just want silence. I have had too much noise and too much stimulation inside the room for the last 6 hours. My nervous system is feeling like really going a little bit crazy. I just want to get behind the wheel and drive home in silence. I want to stop at a Chick-fil-A and I'm going to have my Dr. Pepper and my little chicken nuggies, and I'm going to have my peace. Everybody's going to feel differently about driving, but for myself, I don't mind driving. I like going long distances. I've been driving in the car, my whole life, ever since I was like 10 months old. My grandparents lived in Florida. We lived up in Connecticut. They would drive 2 days up the East Coast, pick up me and my mother, and drive us 2 days back down to Florida. So literally my entire life, I've been driving all up and down the East Coast. It doesn't matter to me. You might feel completely different, where you're like, I hate driving. I do not like driving. I don't want to take a wedding that is an hour away. To me, that just feels icky. I don't like having to get up that early in the morning or whatever. So you may want to put a premium on your drive time. If it's far away, you're like, I don't like this. You're going to really have to pay me to make it worth it to me. Go ahead and do that. That is the beauty and the freedom of being your own boss. You get to decide what is worth your time and how much your time is worth. Thank you so much for listening, for watching, for sharing, and helping to support my dream of empowering the bridal hair and makeup industry. I will see you back next time.